realized, I guess I've been sitting with it. The fact that I am very afraid, very fearful of success.
Hmm.
And I've been very good at sabotaging myself.
Hmm.
And I've got all the tools, and
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
like some of those special tools, I mean, the most sacred tools. And at the same time, I am scrambling and
Hmm.
a mess that way, So and this storm and everything else is just kicking my butt, you know,
Hmm.
deep, deep. Whew, you want a ceremony call for a hurricane.
Hmm.
So anyway, so my question to you is, what can I do to?
Yeah. So this is what I would say about that. You know, it's a lot of like how we approach things, like with the different classes and stuff. A lot of times if you look at it, sometimes we're talking about something and it seems like the same words, but we're talking about like a different approach or something. And in a way, you could say like, yes, sometimes the same words are being used, but there's a lot of layers to going through and being able to treat something. And the different layers represent different things that need to be addressed. And so, yes, you might be talking about the same thing. The rational mind, our everyday mind just goes, oh, this is a struggle. Like, you look at self-sabotage, for example. This is a struggle. You do XYZ, it eradicates that. When a lot of times it is very multifaceted, it's very multi-layered. And you can't always like come at it from just a single point of view. You have to kind of come at it from different angles. And one of the things I could say personally is in my younger years, when it came to self sabotage, I was really thinking about turning pro. Like I was really, really good at it. I mean, really good at it. And I would go through and I would try to treat it this way and I would try to treat it that way. And, I tried to treat it a lot of different ways. And a lot of times I don't know that I really made a dent in it. And it was very frustrating. I've said before in some of the classes and the study groups, like in my youth, if I did something for somebody else, I would rock it. But if I tried to do that same thing for myself, couldn't pull it together, just couldn't pull it together. Right. And so, it's always something that's in the back of my head, like, be careful, be aware, you have that tendency, and actually we all have the potential for that tendency. And one of the things that like, if I was to step back and say like, what's one thing that I could really go after to really help all these other things work? And we were talking about it a couple times, even in this little streaming session, is the health race. Like if you really work the health race, both the outer rays and the inner rays, you are detoxifying something. First, you're detoxifying the body, but more importantly, you start to really detoxify like lower emotions, lower like frustrations, angers, like hurts, pains. I tend to go pretty hard at the health race for this. And you know, a lot of times when we approach this, we kind of unwind the outer rays, but the inner health rays that go from the skin down into the body, into the bone, they're usually the ones that are worse. And so I would do a combination of either use the health ray blend or helichrysum, right? And then internally for the inner health rays, when I say internally, the inner health rays use either spasmophilia or use basil.
I've been taking
The,
basil every day
yeah,
internally.
good. But like here, you wanna inhale it and just direct it to different parts of your body. First, do the outer rays. So either use a health ray blend or helichrysum and just kind of go section to section of your body, right? Then go through and use the basal or the spasmophilia and go internally, like just, still the same body parts, but go deeper and deeper into the body and go back and forth with that for a little while, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And at some point you'll be expelling things both out of the brain, and mostly it will come out of the solar plexus, sometimes out of the basic and sometimes out of the throat, right? But after you go through and do that, you have your purba, right? You have your purba.
Oh, I have
After you've
everything.
done the health ray several times, go through and disintegrate, or use the sage. Like after that, just you don't even have to direct that at this point. Just start inhaling the sage, which will kind of flush things out, and it will help to strengthen the brain. And so I'll do that for a little bit, and then you can stop there. But I usually don't like to stop there. I take it a little bit further, and I use a combination. In fact, I have it right here in my pocket. Like I mean, I literally do this all the time. Splendor and poplar, right? And the two things that I do with it is you sit and inhale the splendor with your awareness on your brain, and you do that for a little while, and then you rotate it with the poplar, right? And then you do that for a little while, awareness on the brain, and then you go back to the splendor, awareness is on your brain, and then back to the poplar, and you're literally unwinding both the neurology and the mental processing that kind of takes you to that place of that self-sabotage. And so this is one I know well for myself. Like, I mean, if I even suspect that it's starting to happen, I do health rays, inner health rays, splendor, poplar. And if I'm feeling like there's some brain fatigue in there or I'm really expelling, I do the sage in between all.
Thank you, because
That will very much usually eradicate that. And that's the thing that fear of success or fear of being good or fear of standing out, any variation of that, it's a lot more common than you think.
oh,
It's not like, oh boy, I got this one. A lot of people have that. And it's a weird one because, in your mind, you would think like, no, I don't have that. But, I would just catch myself in behaviors where I'm like, yeah, I could have done really well there, but I didn't, or I gave it away, or, I let somebody knock my feet out from under me, or worse yet, nobody around me was going to knock my feet out from under me. So I would go find somebody like, hey, excuse me, could you please come over here and knock my feet out from under me? I mean, it was almost like that kind of behavior. And I was like, God, I can't get old doing this. Like it's just going to make me miserable. And I did versions of this, and I found that, trying to think of a way to say this, it made me more like kind of courageous in some of those situations to like step out of that self-sabotage box. And it's an interesting thing because it's not necessarily like, oh, I have courage and I'm strength. It's like you kind of let all that stuff go, and you just like you come to this point where you're like, I'm sick of this. I am just sick of it. It's not I'm being courageous because I'm feeling strong and I'm going to take this on. I don't want to do this anymore. To my bones, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's almost like out of frustration and exhaustion of the pattern that you just go, I'm stepping out of this box. I don't care what happens. But when those health rays are so congested, think of the health raise as your ability to overcome obstacles, right? It is literally like in some of the drawings of Ganesha, which is the deity in Hinduism about and in Tibetan Buddhism about overcoming obstacles. You always see like health rays drawn all around Ganesha, and it's because when the health rays are opened, your ability to overcome obstacles, to release the inner blockages, to flow around whatever the difficulty is heightened. And be it self-sabotage, be it whatever the issue is, it doesn't even really matter. Like you just start releasing very specific certain kinds of lower emotions. Like we're doing the class in December, really specific to the health rays and specific to the emotions that are associated with health rays. But anger, anxiety, the ability to overcome obstacles. And in that class is the tendency for self-sabotage. The very first step is to really thoroughly go deep with the health rays, not just like, oh, I'm going to open up the health rays. I mean, like, there's times when I sit and work the health rays, just the inner and the outer rays for like a couple of hours, like just inner health rays, outer health rays, inner health rays, outer health rays. And then I'll go take a salt bath. I get out of the bath and then inner health rays, outer health rays. I just go back and forth. And I mean, just open things up so that things can flush out, because a lot of this has to do with the past. It has to do with conditioning, has to do with past experiences, and you're just opening up the pathways for this issue to get resolved.
Thank you so much, because you know what, this past and old stuff, like, because I see things and it comes to me. So after this, it's just much more, but it's so super uncomfortable. And what I noticed is I was so irritated, and I'm so like fed up and frustrated.
Yeah, that right there tells me, Ling Ling helps with frustration, but that also tells me health rays are super congested, like right off the bat. Just when you
But
tell me that,
frustrated not with others, more like frustrated with
no,
myself.
that doesn't matter what the frustration is. Just any sort of frustration, it's a
Okay.
health issue. Yeah, too much
Um,
accumulation.
do you think
Like
it's
as
just
soon as I catch myself getting frustrated, like I start to go like, well, it's this, it's that, and I go, well, let's open up the health rays and see if I'm still frustrated. It's never there. You because when you open up the health rays, you just kind of almost like shift to like, okay, time to problem solve, or time to move on, or time to let go, or time to step away from this, or like, this is how I'm going to deal with this. Like you just kind of go into like this mode of flowing around whatever the difficulty is.
okay?
Yeah.
And and another thing that's been coming up is between. I've been this week. I've been between frustration and heartache, almost like
Oh my God. Yeah.
grieving.
I bet
But
it.
the grieving of just seeing things, I've been just and feeling. I guess all of it, right?
Yeah.
And my old stuff. So right now, like this afternoon, I've had difficulty taking a deep breath. It feels like it's like tight. So just doing this, what you just said, will help with all of it.
Yeah. That should help. But remember to keep doing the cinnamon. The stimulate all
Yeah.
the processes of the body, strengthen the body, and anti-contagious diseases, especially where there's like flooding and stuff. Cinnamon is your go-to thing for that.
We don't really have that, more of like the aftermath of
Okay.
the everybody's belongings on the side of the road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, okay. Cinnamon. I've been doing bay laurel. I've been doing a lot of tinctures. I've been doing
Yeah,
basil
good. Yeah, yeah,
internally, and
good.
I've been sniffing anything I can. But I felt like coming to ask you, what do I do with this self-sabotage
Yeah,
nonsense?
yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.